for Jones, somewhere in there. And he couldn't, people couldn't understand him. He was a true idiot savant. They brought me in because I'm a functioning savant. And what I did, he wrote everything out on a yellow tablet. And let me give you in chapter 3. Chapter 3, Riemann, mathematician, challenged the mathematical community to come up with an algebraic expression for recurring primes. Now, nobody's been able to do that in over 100 years. We put one number in, it comes up with 17, next number in, 19, 23, that kind of thing. And so on base 10, Marshall visually threw it out on a piece of yellow tablet, a cone. Then he did spiraling numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going around, and a cone going down the cone in a different pitch in the opposite direction. And you could draw a straight line through it. And that was his solution to Riemann. Now, that is brilliant. It's beyond anything. And there's a whole book where I had a group of hedonists. These are sacred geometry experts that were edited by Dr. Lenny Time, and that will be the Marshall papers. And let me tell you, there's some gems in there about sacred geometry. Now, that's one of my books, the manuscript. It's sitting over there in a pile. I don't have the money to publish it. I've got many more. There's one called Spook Central on the work I did with MRU and Carolean photography. You know, that Carolean photography paper I did so stimulated Dr. Bender at Pullman that he ended up building the first MRI based on my disproving Carolean and his work, the Russian stuff. That's what got me to SEAL Corp. Then once I was doing SEALs, I did so well with them, SEAL Team 1, SEAL Team 2, SEAL Team 3. They then moved me to MRU, and that will become the Spook Central. I have another book called The SEAL Reports on the 12 reports I did on how to develop Superman using biofeedback. One of the chapters, that's in Power Tools, using a didgeridoo, I used continuous breathing techniques to change your perception of time. And now their martial arts becomes paranormal. You have the precision of Tai Chi. I had studied with Chan Te Chung out of Canada. He came down once a week and taught Tai Chi in Dr. Bestier's naturopathic school upstairs. And I was doing my herb company, working for the military. You don't think I had to do Tai Chi? He took me aside. He said, "You're special." I had 18 years of Hungao, Northern Shaolin. I studied with John Leon, Bruce Lee, was one of the kids in my class. There were 4 students. There was Bruce Lee, Skip Ellsworth, Fred Williams, and myself. And I got really good with Hungao. And then when Chan Te Chung taught me his secret, I was able to be world champion in double sword, which is the 8th movement in Tai Chi, using extension of your Chi. Chi turns out to be microtubules, structured water in it that is outside the body. And that's how the meridian thing's done. Because when I was in anesthesiology and reporting for Nixon, that's what we were doing with the acupuncture studies in Seattle. And that's where the microtubule concept first originated. Richard Chapman, Dick Black, I can name all the people that did it. I was there. And it was brilliant, like the 60s were for music. It was like something was happening here, it's wonderful. And so I was known as the Wizard of Oz because Seattle is the Emerald City. And that's that. I was this whiz kid out in the North End, Highline District. Weird little monster. I was a functioning savant. In 3rd grade, they wanted to put me on drugs. I think my report card said, "Ricky is very disruptive. He asks too many questions." 4th grade, Mrs. Reed. Mrs. Reed
You're
kept
too nosy,
me after. Well, no. I didn't read English until after 4th grade. 5th grade, I read every single science fiction story in the library that had a little atom on the back of it. I can talk about
Which was your famous? Which one? Was Heinlein in there by chance?
I'm sorry?
Was Heinlein in there?
Oh,
I was in. I
graduated in 19. I did my meson field theory and projected the muon in 1960. It later became an elementary particle and the tachyon factory that it is. And in 61, I built a linear accelerator that created particles going faster than the speed of light. And those two were used then on the Mariner 4 3 years later to measure the water on Mars. That's why old man DuPont came to my graduation in high school, then in Washington State University. When I graduated from there, he took me back east, put me in grad school. That's where I met Gabor, wrote my paper, A Holographic Concept of Reality.
Did you ever meet Robert A. Heinlein? He was in the Navy, 1980.
That's
yeah.
the Church of
Do you know?
Eating Raoul. Yeah, that's the whole thing is based on that. You know, the stranger, strange land. Yeah, that's neo-pagan. That is what he calls himself now is hotter. Church of All Worlds.
Starship Troopers, The Puppet Masters, movies that Destination Moon, but
wait, beyond that. But Andrea,
he died in 88.
Yeah, but the Church of All Worlds started in 66 and was started by Kim Zell, who later became Otter. He's out of Ukiah and started the Church of All Worlds, which was neo-pagan, and a large movement nationally. And that's where I started. Then I met Sandra Wachewski and became Coven Camelot, Star of the North. I was third degree witch, which means I was able to do initiations. And then Helen Parsons Smith started grooming me. Her husband, Grady, was caliph, and they were grooming me to be caliph for the OTO, and I turned it down. And that's why Breeze took it and then moved it to Berlin. Wir wollen Deutsche bleiben. But I have more things to do than lead. Right now, Frater Shiva is still running Solar Lodge. When he had, what's that guy that was a mass murderer and all the other, kind of think of his name
Manson?
now.
Charles Manson?
Yeah, but I'm still in touch with Frater Shiva, and he ran that lodge, and I knew Gunther, Gernon, and Blood. I knew everybody in the OTO lodge.
Did you by any chance, you didn't meet Ray Bradbury or Arthur C. Clarke during your time, did you? Isaac Asimov, any people like that? Philip K. Dick is my favorite now. I love Philip K. Dick's stories.
Dick was someone that I met, and wait till you meet Norman Spinrad. He used to hang around me and hang out and write stories around what we were doing. I could.
Really?
I did it. Oh, yeah. I had this. I demonstrated the control I could do on an audience using color and light, where I would just have a normal picture, and then I would start flickering it in certain flicker rates using different colors and geometry. And what would happen is I could, at will, within 10 seconds, make 90% of the audience all stand having to go to the bathroom. I had that kind of control. And those were written in 3 unpublished books that now exist called The Diamond Body, Electromagic, and Yogatronics. And
do you have a complete list of all the books you've written by chance? Do you have a list, just 1 through 100?
They're in boxes here. They're all in boxes. I have a major book for every single year I've been out of graduate school. And I have at least 4 papers. I am a writer. I am inflamed. I am what do they call a man on fire when I write. And nobody has it. Well, look at my writing. 9-volume encyclopedia on alternative agriculture. I'm MacGyver. I chaired the New Crops Development Board for the Oregon Department of Ag under 2 governors. This governor doesn't even have that division anymore. My process.
Your metaphysics, we can get your books. Some of them are pretty reasonable. You know, your audio books, it says $15, Metaphysics $13 and $12. But we have to, in order for us to, what?
Each one of those has a gigabyte of old manuscripts from when I taught that course, so that you can go into the original sources and come to your own conclusions on my metaphysics. And what I want to do is teach again a type of Dumbledore Eric
classes?
Fromm University. Oh, well,
Are you going to do it?
online.
You can do it online now. You know, a lot of people teach online, and we can still see your face, so your PowerPoint.
I taught those using the well out of San Francisco, and I dived into IES, Interactive Educational System, in Humboldt in 1990. When PC Link changed to AOL. Mark Hume hired me to set up all the metaphysics download libraries and teach it. The class was accredited at Harvard, and John Mack took Meta 3 and started his alien abduction studies. And I told John at that time, you know, that he's not going to prove the existence of God, but what he could do is treat the common malady. Targeted individuals and alien abductions is a metaphor for something happening on a more archetypal level. And when I said
I've
that,
noticed. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was in Florida, in Homestead, when the Bramwells, a very famous case that Mac worked with, I was there when she was abducted. And how I stopped the abductions, I put a camera on her bed. And there it is. You can't prove the existence of God because they're way ahead of you. But what you can do is treat the ailment that they're all experiencing. And targeted individuals is probably archetypal. I don't think I can take a microwave and a gutter and hassle my neighbors. No problem with a wave gutter. Anybody can do that. You can buy stuff off the shelf. I did the early studies for the military on synthetic telepathy. And let me tell you this. 5G technology has the potential of being an endgame weapon. And when I say that, it's Merlin that said it to Arthur when he said, anything not specifically forbidden is mandatory. If it's possible, you can count on it. Because it's all true and more. And that's a fact. So if you believe in aliens, how could you not? And Holly would, if she could. That's what Holly was made, as a magic wand, transform everything. That's why they used it as Hollywood. Now, you know, I have to tell you something. 3D printers didn't exist until a replicator was in your mind's eye. What makes something real is when you can see it in your mind's eye. It's not physics. Physics changes every 20 years. I am a physicist. I block both worlds. I know for a fact.
Can I ask you a silly question? This just came up for me, and I know this is going to be a silly question. A man may laugh at me.
Don't be that way. Just that.
Okay. Well, what I was wondering was, you know, the gentleman that was just passed. He was in a wheelchair. I'm gonna play a little mind game with you, and he was better than Michio Kaku, and he wrote. And Big Bang Theory had him on as a guest, and he could speak, but he couldn't speak. The great theoretical physicist in the wheelchair.
Yeah, from MIT. But the problem is, there's a bunch of us out there. We are lead scouts. So I'm not a big deal. I have highest IQ measurement in the state of Washington, but guess what? How they discovered me was really weird. I signed up for a reaction test. They wanted to know how fast when the light turned green, your reaction time would be. And what they found out with me was I was paranormal. I was knowing when the light would change just before it would. I was doing.
Well, are you called a theoretical physicist? Are you considered a theoretical?
I'm an experimental. No. I'm an experimental physicist. That means I'm a genius with my hands. When I build something, it works. That's what I was best at. I built a linear accelerator.
You went to MIT. How many courses do you have to take in order to be a physicist at MIT? You went to MIT.
I was at the University of Delaware. I had 160 credits, and they sent me out to different universities to get the courses. Some of them were at MIT, some of them were at Princeton, right across the river there. So I went all over when I was at Delaware. I worked under R. B. Murray, who was a Nobel Prize winner in solid-state physics. That's where my master's came from. And, dealing with event horizons, precursor waves,